And
From the
we are
industrial
live.
wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You up ahead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered. We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto. Now, you clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop up your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Tonight we have an exciting fact-filled show for you tonight. Or not, I don't know.
Where do we rank on facts?
Well, I don't know. Apparently very high compared to a lot of people. I don't know. We're going to do a lot of mask denial tonight. We're going to talk about how everyone who wears a mask is a sheep.
Now, this is something I've been thinking about, and I haven't heard anybody say about it, but it's just merely a thought exercise about what the problem people are having with masks are when they say, I can't breathe. Is that maybe their mouth is like too close to the mask and they're getting like that waterboarding effect?
Oh, I just think it's people don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah, that too. But like sometimes, like it's like if you put a bag over your head or whatever, and you see that movies and like the thing starts to suck in, like that's kind of what happens in waterboarding, where it feels like you're drowning but you're not.
That could be. I don't know. I've never really experienced a problem with it other than it's hot. The only thing I don't like about it is just hot.
See, the only thing I got like if I'm hauling a pallet of ice with a shitty pallet jack, because those pallets of ice are literally it's literally a ton of ice.
Yeah.
And dragging around with the shitty pallets, like it's hard work. And then that's when like you like kind of breathing heavy, and then like the mask is like close to my face, and
Yeah, that could be.
But if you like purse in your lips, so that like that it doesn't like create that suction, then like it's fine.
Yeah, I don't. Never personally had any problem with it at work, but I don't really work. I drive a forklift. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't hear anyone I think only complaints I hear from people at work is it's hot.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they don't like, is because it's really hot in the plant, and they, they don't acclimatize those places, so because it's only like oppressively hot like this, maybe in Michigan. I don't know, 1 month. It's not worth like putting $1 billion into trying to do AC for a 10 million square foot warehouse that was built at the turn of the last century. I mean, it's not worth your time, but it is a shitty time to have something extra on your face. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, whatever I got to do. But yeah, some people just make it's like a stand they're taking. It's like, oh, you guys are really just a bunch of weirdos.
It's like a weird separate separate case of perpetual adolescence.
Yeah.
Like I have my own perpetual adolescence where I watch too many movies and play too many video games rather than doing a second job or something.
Yeah.
Responsible shit.
Yeah. Responsible stuff that you guess what? At the end you still die. So responsible.
But there's these people that are just like, they're like, I'm an adult and I deserve not to be told what to do.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're a fucking child.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, and I think too, I mean, a lot of this is actually it's nothing. It's just this alternate what do they call those? Alternate reality games, like the Lost experience and shit they used to do. It's like there's millions of people in this country playing some game where they're working with Donald Trump to unmask the Illuminati. And so if that's like your reality, if that's your real world, then yeah, anything the government tells you to do, it's like, oh, if I wear a mask, my balls will shrink. They're trying to take away my masculinity. It doesn't matter if it's true. It's just this this alternate universe that everyone's in.
There was some article that somebody wrote that was like, it was vaguely based on some study they did, and I forget all of this. I just remember the interesting part about it is that there's like, you know, a similarity for the people who are like conspiracy theorists and like they don't believe the government. They have like a similar like thinking pattern. And then they said, like, you know, when is this useful? And they found some way when it's useful. It's like, well, when the government actually is tyrannical and lying to you, like, these people are good to be.
Clock that's broke being right twice a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing. Hey, look, I mean, everyone's lying all the time. But the thing is, are they lying about hiding money and trying to get themselves in an advantageous position? Or are they lying about interdimensional pedophiles that are trying to, you know, destroy American freedom? And what do you think it's more likely they're lying about? I mean, you know, because I believe a lot of that shit too. I'm not that shit, but I believe a lot of weird stuff. But a lot of it's based on this has happened in the past.
Well, it's like, here's some evidence, and that's a weird thought experiment. I don't go whole hog 100% into it.
It's not a lifestyle.
No.
Be casual.
Well, if this is correct, then everything is wrong.
Yeah. It's like early observations about gravity. It's like, it's proof that God exists. Why? Well, because he loves us enough that he keeps us on the earth. Whoa. I think there might be a deeper, more rational explanation, but yeah, that's whatever works for you. I mean, whatever keeps you whistling along. Just maybe you shouldn't vote. I don't know, but yeah, that's.
So recently, I've been diving into only two, and I don't know if there's any more on the horizon, but sort of local sodas.
Okay.
Like regional sodas that you hear about, but they aren't here. And I just had them delivered to my house.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to try them. So one was Cheerwine.
All right.
Have you ever heard of Cheerwine?
Oh.
It's
Is that like German sweet wine?
no, it's not a wine. It's a soda.
Oh, it's a soda. Okay.
Yeah, it's essentially, but it's supposed to be a cherry soda, but it's like somewhere across between like a cherry Pepsi and a cherry Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
It's fine.
Dr. Pepper's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fine. It didn't blow my socks off or anything. It was just like, okay, well, I'll finish the rest of this.
Yeah.
And then the other one I heard about on a podcast years ago, but someone always talked about it, was Cactus Cooler.
Okay.
And I don't know. Yeah, this is, you can't get this here, so I had it delivered here. And I think this is like in Arizona and California or some shit like that.
Okay.
So it's orange pineapple soda. I expect this to taste like Crush, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be like Crush with a pineapple aftertaste.
Yeah.
Let's find out. Dun dun. He's lifting it to his lips. He's swallowing. What is the verdict?
It's not bad, but it's kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah, it tastes fine. It tastes totally fine, but it kind of tastes like you took like Smarties and crushed them up and made a pop out of it.
Okay. Doesn't have that weird metallic aftertaste that pineapple sometimes gets.
Not really.
How much actual juice content? Is
Oh,
there?
probably none.
I don't know, sometimes those local brands are like, they just use the good stuff.
No, it just got water, high fructose corn syrup, citric
Okay.
acid.
Bad stuff. Okay.
Well, it's part of the Dr. Pepper 7-Up, huh? It's made in Plano, Texas.
Yeah, it's where Dr. Pepper's from. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, this is totally fine, but
And would it mix good with vodka?
probably.
Okay, that's what's.
Yeah, I'll drink the rest of this. It's not as like the way the one guy hyped it up is like it's like this, it's an American necessity that's been kept from all of America or something.
By
But
the
no.
interdimensional.
Yeah, I was thinking about that cheer wine because like it's fine, but I was thinking about like making like a float with it, like a root beer float.
Uh-huh.
It's like that could either be kind of like cool or a total disaster. We'll find out.
Report back.
Do you ever do like other floats, like a Coke float or
I done Coke. I've done Dr Pepper. I like Dr Pepper floats.
Okay.
You got to use good ice cream with those.
Yeah.
Like the expensive stuff. Just like the real vanilla. Because I made a Dr Pepper float with Talente vanilla bean ice cream, and it was like really good.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, it was.
See,
really
that's
good.
usually a rule, like to never use vanilla bean ice cream for floats, because what makes the vanilla thing is the vanilla bean, and it tends to separate and just settle on the bottom, so you really don't get the vanilla taste. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I tend to blend mine too. So,
Oh, okay.
but it was pretty good.
Because I remember, like, it would be like, yeah, I want root beer floats, and then like what would be purchased is like, what's an off-brand root beer? Oh no, yeah, no. Well, I guess not off. No, they get Barks and Breyer's ice cream, which is a horrible root beer float. Because
Yeah.
Barks is a good root beer. It is terrible for floats because of the whole caffeine.
Oh, okay. Bark has caffeine, huh? For
yeah,
real?
yeah. That's Barks has bite. That's a whole. That's why its slogan is like that.
Oh, okay. I always thought root beer was caffeine free.
Yeah, most is, but that's where they made a difference.
That's like their jolt.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the jolt of root beer. Okay. Good for them.
I mean, I remember thinking when I was a kid, like things like 7-Up and root beer and Crush were more like healthy for you because they didn't have caffeine. It's like, no, that's not the problem.
Problem is the sugar and sugar substitute, which is corn mixed with sulfuric acid. Some other weird ice cream and soda concoctions. I don't know. I've done a lot of weird shit over the years. Nothing remarkable. Nothing I marketed.
Have you ever done a beer float?
No, that sounds gross. I'm not a big fan of beer except with certain kinds of food. I learned that from the German restaurant around here. If you go there and get some of their food and stuff, they have that real dark beer that's served in those really tall flutes.
Yeah.
And it's bitter. You could never drink that. But when you mix it with, like, whatever that German food is, I don't know, it's basically kraut and some kind of sausage and a bunch of other stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, bring me 4 of these and 2 Vicodin, and we're going to be fine. But, yeah, it's like I don't like beer except with a lot of, there's some foods that it's really good with. Just like wine. I like wine food pairings, and I've done that, but I could never just sit down and drink wine. There has to be food with it. Because if I'm going to get blitzed, I'm just going to go to whiskey and vodka. It's like, okay, if we're just drinking to drink, I got my thing here.
Well, speaking of drinking and driving, no, we didn't speak about it. F1 is back.
All right.
They just finished last week the Austrian Grand Prix, which is the first race of this season.
How was that for everyone?
It was really good.
Was it?
Almost half the field did not finish the race.
Okay. That's always exciting.
Yeah, so the rookie this year. So there's 2 new drivers, but only one of them's a rookie. And Nicholas Latifi,
Okay.
who's a Canadian driver, but sounds like he's from like Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. There's 2 Canadian drivers and no American drivers. But
All Americans in F1?
there has never been, as far as I know.
Never been? Okay.
Except for what was Andretti's? Are the Andretti's? Are they American?
I think they are now.
Oh,
I don't know. It's a good question.
it's like one of those guys with like an Italian name that I think was like a famous American driver. Did some F1 stuff, but like never really caught hold.
Okay. Yeah, those guys were more like IndyCar and kart,
Yeah,
which is American F1.
Yeah.
It's similar cars.
I saw some of that a YouTube of the it wasn't they're at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but it wasn't set up like a ring. It wasn't the 500.
Okay.
It was set up more like a road course,
Yeah.
so like it cut through the middle or some shit. And those they did some new shit with those cars. They look really fucking cool. They're not as impressive as F1 cars, because
Yeah.
F1 cars are just like fucking airplanes held to the ground by air. But yeah, these are really cool looking. and because they have like almost like half finished like airplane cockpits.
Okay.
So like they're not fully encased. Like there's an open top, but they have like a full like arc windshield in front of them.
Oh, okay.
And but you know it's like a small cockpit. It's not like an actual car with a windshield. But apparently it's really hot in there. So you see you see the guys pulling in the pit, and like they're like holding their hand up because they're trying to direct air towards themselves. So
On an engine.
yeah. And the pit, yes, the pit changes were kind of interesting because in F1 you have like 20 guys that go at those cars when they pull into the pits
Yeah.
because they do like literally like 1.2, 1.5 second pit stops.
Right.
Because the car comes in, stops, the guy lifts up the car, four guys grab a tire. Or well, the guys hit the lug nut first, and there's only one lug nut on an F1 car. Then four other guys. So you have four guys torquing the wheel. Four other guys grab the tire, pull it off. Another four guys put the new tire on, drop the car, and go.
That's the Chinese mass manufacturer. Throw manpower at it.
And in IndyCar, it's one guy per tire. So like there's a jack guy, he lifts up the car, then one guy runs up like with a tire, drops the tire, undoes the lug nut, takes the tire off, puts a new tire on, and then tightens the lug nut.
Huh.
Which is kind of interesting because like there's parts where like the air gun the guy has, at some point they'll just kind of like whip it around like they're behind their back towards like the pit wall to just get it the fuck out of the way.
Huh.
It's even more interesting. I think what is it? It's like I think it's like Japanese supercars or something like that, where like it's like even less people and like guys are doing like Dukes of Hazzard slide over the car to get to like the other side of the car and change the tires. Like they'll do a Dukes of Hazzard slide, kick the jack out of the way, and then like run away from the car so the guy can drive off. Like all in one fluid motion.
Sounds like something Japanese. He's got a special shoe designed to catch the round handle.
And then I totally forgot that there's a fucking guy in IndyCar. His literal name is Will Power.
Nice. It's a lot to live up to. Better have everything squared away pretty good.
And I was watching the highlights of the race, and he was like leading, like for like the first half of the race, and then he just disappeared. Like the in the highlights, they didn't bother to follow up on what happened to him.
He lost willpower.
Anyways, F1 Austrian Grand Prix. I'm also doing F1 Fantasy, so that's kind of neat.
Oh, okay. Like fantasy football?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a budget, and then like every driver, you have like $100 million, and like you pick 5 drivers, and they have varying costs, and then you pick a team, and then like there's various ways they dole out points. But the thing I've learned from this year is not to trust anything, not to trust any Ferrari engine.
Okay.
Because Ferrari is not looking good this year.
Having some tough times. Huh?
Well, so they got in a lot of trouble last year, and it's like kept under wraps of what they actually did, but they were clearly cheating.
Okay, good.
Like remember I'd tell you stuff like somehow Ferrari just had a faster car because they were like strategically leaking oil out of the car to like cool the engine.
Okay.
Apparently that's not allowed anymore. But it wasn't just that, and I don't even know if that's the thing to begin with. It seemed because like there's like speculation that like what they were doing is like F1 gets this data, and like from that data they determine whether your car is legal, and like somehow Ferrari had just built something to send legal data.
Yeah, they're doing the Volkswagen technique.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, good for them.
So the FIA and Ferrari got together to work on a solution, so Ferrari didn't get in trouble, but now they don't get to cheat. No, it's F1, so everybody cheats until they get caught. So that's just how it works.
It's like the Chinese SAT test.
But last week I said that Mercedes wasn't going to run their dual axis system that can change the toe on the fly, but that they actually did get to run it. So
Oh, okay.
it didn't seem to help that much.
Yeah, well, they got to work it out. That or it's a bunch of overthought German shit. That
Well, so Mercedes has its own problems. They still won the race. So Valtteri Bottas won the race. Second year in a row they won the first race of the season. But at some point they were telling them to stay off the curbs. So there's like, you're gonna see like in corners there's like these red and white like curbs that that follow the contour of the turn.
okay.
And then there's like these little more green curbs on the outside. And if you're racing like to the absolute maximum, you're gonna put your car up on those curbs. And they're like rumble strips, so they're not just flat. They have like rumble strips on it. But even that, like everybody drives on the curbs to maximize the drive line.
Okay.
But what apparently was happening with Mercedes, the Mercedes engines in particular, is that if they were driving on the curbs, that vibration would like shake loose the what do they call it? The electrical loop in the car.
Okay.
And it was possibly sending cars into what they call anti-stall, which basically like the car just loses all power.
Okay.
Remember, these are hybrid cars, so there's a lot of weird shit
Yeah.
that occurs with them. So during the middle of the race, the team principal got on the radio and told both drivers stay off the curbs. So they weren't maximizing their driving line, but they still won the race. So yeah, like pretty much every Ferrari team was pretty much fucked. But despite that, Charles Leclerc came in second place. Mostly because, now like I said, nearly half the field didn't finish. So 9 out of 20 people did not finish the race due to mechanical errors or whatever. So whenever something like that happens, you have safety car comes out. And then that bunches the field all back together.
Oh, okay.
So like when there's a bunch of safety cars, then pretty much any team can have a chance at winning, because nobody's just like running away with it because they can't. So like strategy and good luck, Ferrari pulled out a podium. So, and the third place was a nice surprise. Lando Norris of McLaren got his first podium. I think he just turned 20 years old. So.
Nice. Enjoy that. The rest of your life is going to be just as exciting.
And then so in the F1 fantasy, I just, so Haas, Alfa Romero, and Ferrari, I didn't choose any of those teams or drivers because they're probably gonna be fucked until Ferrari maybe changes something. So we'll see what happens. Racing Point did pretty well. One of the drivers, the car it failed, and so but the other guy came in sixth place. But he would have come in higher, but he got a penalty, so then he ended up finishing below the person in front of him.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the cool thing about Lando Norris. So, Lewis Hamilton was in front of him, but Lewis Hamilton got a 5-second penalty for knocking a driver off the course.
Okay.
And so he's behind Lewis Hamilton, but he's like more than 5 seconds behind him. If he can get within 5 seconds, he'll take his spot. And so on the last lap of the race, Lando Norris does the fastest lap of the race in his car. Beats Lewis Hamilton because he comes between in 4.8 seconds. And you get points for getting the fastest lap. So he got a third place finish and an extra point for making the fastest lap in the last lap of the race.
That's exciting. As well deserved.
And what else happened? Oh yeah, the funny thing about Racing Point, they look promising this year. They're usually one of the lesser teams, but they had an interesting strategy this year. they just copied, without any technical data, just like lots of reference photos. They copied Mercedes' car from last year as much as they possibly could.
Oh, okay.
And Mercedes' car from last year turns out to be very competitive with this year's lot.
Yeah.
Because even though they do use Mercedes engines, but Mercedes can't just send over a technical package to be like, here's how we build our car. That's illegal. But they just took so many reference photos that they just copied all the aero elements on the car from last year's Mercedes.
Oh, okay.
So, and it is very competitive, especially for a team that's spending probably a quarter of what Mercedes is spending. And then there's a lot of shakeups going on in the driver stuff. There's a lot of people. Next year there's moves that have basically already happened. So there's like 5 people that are going to be on different teams, but this is their last year racing with them, unless some crazy stuff happens.
Yeah.
Because there can always be like mid-season switches that happens.
Yeah, World War III could break out.
So you have. So Daniel Ricciardo is leaving Renault to go to McLaren. Carlos Sainz is leaving McLaren to go to Ferrari. And Sebastian Vettel is just out in the wind right now. Now, Sebastian Vettel is the only other champion driver in the entire league right now. There's only 2 people driving that won championships, Lewis Hamilton and him.
Okay.
So even though he's like kind of fucked up the last couple of years, he's still a champion driver. But so he's out in the wind right now, and then Renault had an open seat, and they're giving it to, I just completely forgot his name. It's Alfonso something.
Okay. What's this guy's story?
So, no, not Alfonso Davis. He won championships in like the early 2000s. He's a back-to-back champion. What the fuck is his name? Not Alfonso Davis. God damn it! I'm just gonna.
It'll come to you.
Let's see here. Renault, Alfonso. I don't know how to spell Alfonso. Oh, Fernando Alonso. Jesus Christ, I completely fucked that up. So he was racing for McLaren a couple years ago, and then they just kicked him off the team because even though he's a champion driver and he gives like good technical data, he's very expensive because he's a champion, and he just like hated that car, so he was like very hard to work with.
Oh yeah.
So he's coming back to Renault, and like when he previously was with Renault, that's when he won championships. But also, like he's a veteran driver, but also he does a lot of other disciplines of driving. So I think like last year he won the 24-hour Le Mans. Like,
Oh, okay.
Like well, I'm not in F1, so I'm gonna win other races. He did like that Dakar rally shit. I think he came in 13th place there. But just surviving that's an accomplishment. So.
Yeah, what's the engine temperature? 200 feet. That looks good.
So he's coming back to Renault, and then, so yeah, Sebastian Vettel's just kind of left in the wind, and there's some rumors that he could be going to Racing Point, but the only person you could kick out of Racing Point is Lance Stroll, whose father owns the team.
Is there going to be a Darth Vader moment?
So yeah, Lance Stroll's going to be racing for his life this year, probably. I don't know. We'll see. You wouldn't think the father would just kick out, but we'll see.
It's European sports, It's dark over there.
The weird thing about Lance Stroll is that wherever he's raced, except for F1, he's been a champion.
Yeah.
So he's a good driver, but then when you see him in an interview, he's just like this goofy. He's just this goofy dick. And he's Canadian, so I don't know what that he seems affable. He also makes a lot of stupid mistakes. So, but he's a fast driver, so he deserves to be an F1, but there's a reason he's not a champion. So, so yeah, that's been that. So this week we have another Austrian Grand Prix because
Okay.
they're doubling up races, and this is the first time F1 has ever raced in the same what do you call it, raceway? What do you call it, track
Yeah.
in the same year, and in the same racing year. So a couple of firsts there. But what's interesting is they aren't calling this the second one the Austrian Grand Prix. They're calling it the Styrian Grand Prix.
Okay. What does that mean?
No idea. I think that has some mythological shit to go with it or something. But that's just how they're identifying. And I don't think they're doing anything different with the track, because sometimes you can change up shit, just like, hey, we're going to do it slightly different. But I think it's just the exact same track from last week. So, so they did qualifying, today, and it rained during qualifying, so that made some things interesting.
Yeah.
So whenever it rains in F1, everyone's equal. But despite that, Lewis Hamilton came out first, so so
Yeah.
he qualified first. And then the Ferraris were like in like 10th and 11th place, and then I think Carlos Sainz was in third place. It's an interesting grid. Oh yeah, and George Russell came in 12th place. He drives for Williams,
Okay.
who are like the worst team in F1.
Okay.
But god damn it, they're trying. So coming in 12th place is really that's a win.
Yeah, they're like opening up those big bottles of champagne.
So I mean, but like if you look at last week's race, like 9 people didn't finish the race. So like, man, if you just stick in there, like Williams could get some points.
Yeah.
Because George Russell is a really good driver, but if you look at like his score, you would say like this guy's terrible. He's never scored a point in F1. He's never gotten a podium. He's never won a race. It's like this guy must be the worst driver in F1, but no, he's not. He just has the worst car in F1. But I mean, also that's why championship drivers come through Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, the Williams used to win championships, but now it's like people drive for Williams and then have to try so hard just to make a car that's not good work, that when you get on a team that is actually good, it's just smooth sailing. It's like, this is easy compared to what I used to do.
You don't have to fight this car around the track much.
But what would have been, they were thinking about doing a reverse grid qualifying race. So
Okay.
it would be a shortened grid, but it would be reverse grid. So it's like whoever came in first would now be starting in last place. And it would be like a 10-lap race. And then like however it shakes up then that's what would be the starting lineup for the actual race. Which sounded really cool, but they didn't do it because a bunch of teams protested. So because like probably one of the best races from last year was the W Series, the All Women's Racing League, that did a reverse grid race, and it was fucking awesome.
Huh.
Because the person who started at the front, who is what would technically be the worst driver in the league, won the fucking race. And the lady who started all the way in the back, who is supposed to be the best driver in the league, came in second.
So exciting on both ends.
Yes.
This lady fought her way all the way to second, and the other lady held on to first.
Yeah. So that would have been cool, but they didn't do that. So yeah, the Grand Prix starts probably like at 4 a.m. or some shit. So
Yeah.
I'll watch it. So hopefully that's good. You get 3 fantasy teams, and 2 are pretty good, and then 1 just kind of sucks. But I'm like number 39 in one of the leagues I'm in, so I don't really expect anything. I was just like, it's kind of fun to do off to the side. So.
Yeah.
What else? Oh yeah, and then F1 did they were gonna do some. They have the drivers. You know, they had this whole end racism hashtag for the thing.
Okay.
And they were gonna do this thing where all the drivers were gonna take a knee, but then like 6 of them decided to not take the knee.
Okay. Like after they agreed to do it, or
Yeah, pretty much.
okay, that's
And it's weird because like all these guys are like super young, so you figure they'd be like, oh, they know what's hip, they know like how things work, and then but like why do they have like, oh right, they're a bunch of like entitled rich dipshits.
yeah.
They have no idea what real people deal with.
Yeah, they don't understand what's going on. Why people are doing this.
Or like or they told their father like I'm gonna take the knee for to protest to protest police brutality, and like you're fucking not doing that. It's like I'll take away your money, but Dad, I make $20 million in F1. It's like you make $80 million in our hedge fund. It's like
Yep, we're not doing that.
it's like okay, Dad, I won't take the knee.
Yeah, that's
Well, that was just interesting to think that, like, oh yeah, it's not really like a youth thing; it's more of a affluent thing.
yeah, it's like a money thing.
Because, like I said, like most of these guys are like, most of these, like half these guys are like, they would have been in high school with Grayson. They're only like 2 or 3 years older than him,
Yeah.
and millionaires.
Yeah, I have a racing team. What do you do for a living? Oh, I drive cars in a circle really fast, and I make a lot of money for doing it.
And there was like, and there were like some like Charles Leclerc almost got like kicked out of this week's race for like breaking like pandemic protocols.
Okay.
Because he just decided like on like Thursday he flew to Monaco where he lives. That's where he's from. To have a birthday party with his stepsister or something like that.
Yeah. What's the problem? Oh, dude.
But then Valtteri Bottas like also flew to Monaco to like hang out with his wife.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any consistency. I think.
I mean, they haven't had any positive tests recently, so. Because the last time they had positive tests was when they were going to do the Australian Grand Prix, and then as soon as they got some, they just like, well, we're packing this up, not doing this shit.
It's people seem really ambivalent about like what I know some people, and I'm not going to name any names on the show, but I know some people that have been totally freaked out about this whole thing. Like, no, I can't leave my house. I can't do anything. We're just going to stay home, because they had the option to do that. And then this week, oh, it's summertime. We're flying to Mexico. And it's like, what? And you were freaked out about this for 4 months? I couldn't hear enough about all the instructions of yours I was supposed to follow and all the things we're supposed to do, but now you're just going to fly to Mexico. Got to get on a plane, a packed plane, fly to Mexico. Okay, good. You're not totally being hypocritical and too quick here at all. Well, no, this is something we wanted to do. It's like, well, yeah, people want to do a lot of things. But yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, F1 could be really interesting this year, or just Mercedes will win. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because if there's a year to top Mercedes, this is the year because everything's going to be so fucking weird.
Yeah.
It'll also be interesting to see like if the grid changes at all. Because I wonder if like you get a second shot at a race 2 weeks in a row. Like, are people going to get better and are people going to get worse? Like, is that something that can happen?
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen, but like we'll get to see it happen live in action.
Actually judge it. Like you ran this last week.
And they added 2 races to this because there's in the rules it's supposed to be a minimum of 8 races. So they have 8 races scheduled, and they added 2 more. So
Oh, okay.
that'll be neat. They were gonna run like 22 races this year, which is the most they've ever done in a year.
Yeah.
But
Seems a little ambitious considering everything.
well, at first they canceled like all like the like Asian races, like the one in China and the Vietnamese one,
Yeah.
and like now those are probably the safest races to run.
Yeah, it's not you can do the Wuhan 500 now. Going to like, Florida might be a death sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, I doubt they're gonna race in America.
No. Well, you can't even travel to America from Europe, or Americans can't travel to Europe. I don't know which one it is. One of
Yeah.
those.
Because like, yeah, I don't see them going to Texas because that's where we have one F1 race is the Texas Motor, or it's not the Texas Motor Speed, it's Austin something, the Austin Grand Prix or whatever, American Grand Prix.
Call
They,
it COVID 500.
the COVID-19, they literally only do 19 laps and that's the end of the race.
Guys doing pit stops in space suits, astronauts.
Yeah, that's I guess that's the interesting thing about F1 is like having no fans basically doesn't affect watching the race at all
No,
because the fans really don't add that much to a race.
no. The only racing that fans are important in is that that Baja racing where they stand right next to the that's the only and you're only watching that to see like who's going into a crowd.
Yeah, well, that's like what you watch like the running of the bulls. Like it's what you
Yeah.
watch that for.
That's what you're watching.
And then like I don't think they'll be doing the Brazilian Grand Prix because it's really bad there.
Well, not according to the president of Brazil.
Oh,
Oh, lie, if you ask him.
and I don't think they'll do a Mexican Grand Prix. Like the only one I could see is they could maybe do the Canadian Grand Prix,
Yeah.
but it's not on the schedule as far as I know.
I think North America's pretty rough shape.
But yeah, F1, well, it's pretty. It's good. We'll see what happens.
All right. We'll see some model progress. I know everyone yearns for this. The Chernobyl fire truck is moving along
Oh,
slowly but surely.
I guess I wasn't expecting it to be red, but yeah.
Yeah, it's red with white stripes, and it's kind of an interesting. It's interesting how they make the fire truck work, and because they actually you can mechanically see like on the bottom, like how this thing works. Because like there's an extra drive shaft off a part of the transmission that runs right back to the giant water pump. Because the water pump's in the back here,
Yeah.
this stuff here, and then this is the water tank. And then off this transmission here, there's like a spar where you would just put it in gear and turn the pump on. And because again, these were all this is like a ZIL 131, which they made from 1967 until the collapse of the Soviet Union. This was their all and everything truck. This is a military transport vehicle. This is a fire truck. This is anything heavy. It came in 2, 4, and 6, or it came in 4 and 6 wheel drive modes. I've made several ZIL trucks from this company because this is the universal truck in Russia, or it was for a while. But yeah, that's so yeah, it's a red fire truck with blue sirens on top. And I'm still working on some other stuff with it. And then I have a Pershing tank from World War II that I got the other day. I'm going to be working on that because I found an article about a Pershing that kind of inspired me. I bet you I can pretty closely duplicate that tank. So, and I actually ordered like extra. I got the resin parts, and I ordered stuff. I got sheet lead. I got a lead sheet coming to my house because you can shape that real easy to look like damaged stuff. You just got to wear like gloves because it is actual lead.
Yeah.
The real stuff. But you can actually shape that to look like certain kinds of damage.
And when you paint over it, is it good then?
Yeah, just good. Just prime and paint over it. Just graft it right in. It's just really it holds its shape well, and it's very amenable to paint. So you can also use zinc, but it's 4 times as expensive. Just use lead. So I'm going to try to make some Lead's actually lead's good for a few things. It's good for making damage to panels, like because it takes the shape of the panel and then you put damage in it. And it's also good for making leather or rubber covers, which a lot of tanks had, like leather thing, where the actual turret goes into the tank, and so there was
It's
a
like
lot
a
of those,
collar or whatever.
yeah, a lot of those had leather or rubber collars around,
Huh.
and a lot of those leather collars got pulled up when the tank was in like transport mode because you didn't want to get dirt and stuff in the optics and inside the tank and all the gears and all that. A lot of model kits don't detail that.
Huh.
So you can actually make that. Just make a cover out of lead, because it's lead that's like as thin as a piece of paper. You can literally just like shape it on there. I'm gonna try it. So, but yeah,
How many YouTube videos have you watched in preparation?
none. I'm reading this out of a book.
Huh.
I got some books. I got some reference books from a guy who just like, my grandpa had these. Would you be interested? And I looked at him. I was like, yeah, I would. What do you want for? Well, you can just take those. It's like, okay. They're not cheap reference books, but it's a lot of pictures of stuff from World War II. Those were the reference books, and then the other book I have is just different techniques for working with stuff. So, and then to continue my space mining odyssey, I ordered the next IDF vehicle with a weird, remember the IDF bulldozer I made into the
Oh yeah.
the Outland expanded universe nobody wanted. Well, I'm going to do another one because there's another APC they make, which has that weird kind of dog house on it too. So that's going to become another it becomes a space river. So I take all those models and make them into because what's it called? It's got a weird name. It's a weird Hebrew name. What's it called? The Nagmashan. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
We're being canceled now.
I don't speak Hebrew. Surprise. But yeah, it's a basically an APC with weird bulletproof glass doghouse on it, and those immediately become space tanks. So building another IDF space tank.
Have they ever made a model of that APC from Aliens? They've have to have, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they have, but probably some about the rights to Aliens. There's not a lot of good stuff out there, and there should be,
Yeah.
but there isn't. I don't know. Let me check that out. I'm sure I forget what the company would be.
I just remember that looking cool, but that's only in that movie for 15 seconds, and it has that weird turret that folds down so they can drive through the garage door.
Aliens APC model. Well, a lot of guys made some really cool homebrew ones. Guys like Adam Savage have them.
Huh.
If they're smart enough. Let's see who makes this. Let's see, 1/18 scale, made of PVC and resin. Figures not included. It's $289. It also has a light kit.
Huh.
Okay.
I don't even remember that thing having lights on it. That was just a big block of steel with wheels.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird. Yeah.
Well, I remember in the making of stuff about that is they just built this giant model, and then to make it look like it's kicking up dust, they used smoke to make it look like it was kicking up dust rather than because it's too small to actually kick up dust and dirt.
Right.
And they use this stuff called AB smoke, which is extremely toxic in a really small, cramped room where they're trying to shoot a special effect.
Oh, that was fun for everyone. Okay, yeah, the big light up kit for this is it lights up all the computer monitors that he was looking at.
Oh, it has an interior.
Yeah, it has this full interior, exterior. Oh yeah, for $300 it better. And then it did have headlights on it.
Oh, okay.
But I think Ripley busted them out when she drove through the wall. And the turret does fold down.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah. So there is a version of it. I don't know who. APC? Made by... it's just a bunch of different companies licensed it, it sounds like.
Okay.
I have a radio-controlled one. The M577 Armored Personnel Carrier.
Yeah, I remember you used to have that like Aliens technical manual that had all that cool stuff in it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's out of print now.
Yeah.
I don't know where that went, but yeah.
Like those and the Star Wars and Star Trek technical manuals, those are always cool as
I
shit.
love those. Just reading for hours. And now none of it's like canon anymore.
Yeah.
It all doesn't exist. Because like the real predecessor to the Death Star and the universe was something called the Sun Crusher. You just fired a weird torpedo at a sun, and you could destroy a whole planetary system, make the sun like implode, and it's like that never happened now. Yeah, because no Star Wars books they wrote after the movies, where they just expanded that universe, and like they killed hundreds of billions of people in those
Yeah.
books.
Yeah, I had that one. I think it's your book, but now it's just been succumbed to mold or whatever. It's that one where they fuck was it? Somebody accidentally crashes into like the Carmarian like state capitol building. And it's just like all made of glass and like everybody dies, and then they find like a secret Empire fleet that where they did the prototype for the Death Star, and it's just like held off in some place that's like hard to get, and Han Solo and Chewie end up getting like turned into slaves because like Han Solo loses his eyesight, and like they're like picking rocks up and shit.
Yeah,
It was a really cool book. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a second in the series.
yep, I remember those.
I think it was one of the Timothy Zahn runs. He wrote like 30 of those, but he was usually
Yeah.
he did
He
the
was
best
the
ones.
guy.
Yeah.
Because yeah, see, the only company that had official license was Halcyon, because they made the model of the Nostromo and everything. That's the one that's made out of the same vinyl that records are made out of. So it's really like weird to glue it together.
Huh.
Can't find. I mean, you can find them on eBay for $300. It's like, yeah, there's a lot more things I could do with $300 than that.
You just get a box of foam.
Carve this into the shape of what you want it to do.
And they're like, "No, we just ripped you off. You're working too hard."
I'm gonna make this work. I'm sitting there like, yeah, just like old-fashioned woodworking tools, like it's an Amish workshop. Be the Nostromo someday, and I'm beating on a chisel with like a round dowel. 5,000 man hours, and it's just like a block of wood with some lights on it. Oh, take enough mushrooms.
Remember one of my podcasts, the guy like got into woodworking, and then he's like, he seemed, I don't know if he still does it, but it was like all hand tool stuff. So you're like literally hammer and chisel and stuff, and you made a box that's pretty cool, but it's like 200 hours to go into it, and the wood costs $300.
Throw it off a 7-story building, it won't break.
But and I also like when he talks about like it's like one of those where it's like the hand tools, but it's like all rolled up in the leather thing, and you like unroll it, and but he also says like he had no idea, like I mean he imagined it, but he just had no idea how sharp those tools were, and he just gets scared about like all the injuries he almost had while making like this little magic box or whatever.
Yeah, just pull this 7-pound razor sharp 2-handed blade, and you gotta like pull it towards you. Am I gonna decapitate myself? I like some of the weird jeweler's tools that I've gotten into with modeling. Just things that are like so tiny and obscure, like pin vices and stuff. Like those, you can put drill bits in them that are as thin as a human hair. You know, see this, but it's like there's drills that are half this size.
Smaller than pencil lead.
Oh yeah. Like some of my drills I keep in those things for mechanical pencils.
Yeah.
Great for keeping those micro drills in. And those things suck because if there's any torque on them at all, snap. Just made for, they can't even drill into the glue. You got to drill them clean hole through the plastic very slowly. But, if you got to run fiber optic wires through it, some guys do. or then like the micro vices and the. I have some of that weird shit around here, but the four-way vices, those are cool. They're like reversible zip ties, but they put pressure on all four corners.
Huh.
So if you're like or they'll adapt to the shape of anything you're doing, but they instead of just being like a rubber band, you can put specific pressure. Like if you put the notch thing on where you're tightening it up, it can press in that part, but the rest of them it'll stay square. It's I don't have one of those because they're expensive. Micro vices, which you actually like. That sounds stupid, but then you see guys like they'll put a little bit of sandpaper. They'll just glue it to the top of this tiny vise, and when they're trying to fit it, they'll just hit it with sandpaper a little bit, and then try again, hit it with sandpaper a little bit, and boom, it goes right in. It's like, oh, okay. Somebody has spent a long time. This is like some Birdman of Alcatraz shit here, or it's like this is all I do. I carve people figures out of toothpicks. It's human-sized figures out of toothpicks. But yeah, that's some cool stuff. Forged in Fire has a new wrinkle this last couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's to beat the judges, where the judges actually compete.
I guess I didn't know they had judges on there.
Yeah, they got the three main guys.
I've never actually seen. Well, I think I've seen YouTube clips. I assumed it was like an American Chopper thing where they just like follow a guy making a sword, but I didn't know it was.
No, it's actually more. It's run more like a game show.
Okay, so is it kind of like Face Off or whatever?
Yeah, but there's not drama in it.
Yeah.
It's just because most of these guys are, some of these guys are like vaguely autistic. They're just craftsmen, and they're getting on there and they're really pouring their all into making blades and this kind of whatever confinements the show comes up with. Because I've watched it like constantly. One of my favorite things to sit down and watch every week. But now it's in like 7 years. It's been going on a while.
Yeah.
But now they're having the judges who judge the work actually compete.
Huh.
And you can see in a lot of them why they're, oh yeah, this guy's definitely good. Because when you actually watch him work, it's like, oh, this is amazing. This guy's like, you have to make a matched pair of daggers and all this stuff. And this guy will come up with some technique where he's basically making them simultaneously. It's like, oh, that's because most people would make one and then try to make the other match, and then you're just running out of time. The one guy just makes them simultaneously. But then you got the guy that has there's one guy that's like a newer judge, and he moved here from England when he was like 15, and then it's like he's kind of a low-key quiet guy, but then you look into his past and like he got a degree in electrical engineering from Caltech or something, and then he was like an instructor out there. Like he went on to get like a master's degree or something, and he was like a teacher at Caltech, and then he decided, I want to quit all this and make knives. Like, whoa, okay, that's an interesting move. It's like, and now he lives in Virginia, and he makes, because Forged in Fire is a very East Coast show, because all the guys are from like Philadelphia or from Pennsylvania and places like that.
Huh.
So it's because it's shot in New York. But yeah, they had the judges on there competing, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you can see why these guys they're very good at what they're doing.
What, was there a judge you were skeptical of, and they proved themselves?
No, I mean, I always kind of knew in my mind, like these, because when they would talk about what the contestants are doing, they're like, that's a real fuck up. He's going to hate that later. And I was like, why is that? And then you'd see exactly the failure he predicted happen. Like, oh. So I knew those guys were good. And if you go to their websites and stuff, like, it's like, I'd like to have one of his knives. And then it's like, oh, yeah, hand-built knives are really expensive. One of these, but man, do they look cool.
$4,000 and back ordered.
Yeah, not taking orders at this time. Well, a couple of those guys make like the crazy chef's knives. Like, I make knives for this celebrity chef, and they're like, yeah, they're crazy knives. Like paddle knives, duckbill knives, all kinds of stuff. But then some of them are just cool fixed blade carry knives, but you can tell they're handmade, but they look cool.
Yeah. It's
like, this is unique. Like, this is really amazing. but then some of them, it's like it's all completely out of reach. But when you realize how many man hours go into it, it's like, well, there's no way, I could you could make any money and not charge $1,500 for knives, because it's like there's so many hours of work that goes into
Are you just paying for the man hours, or is there a lot of like material cost that goes into, or material loss that goes into creating just one thing?
No, I think you're really the big. I mean, the big cost comes, of course, in paying people to make it,
Yeah.
and then all the equipment you have to have, all your shop overhead. As far as the actual materials, they're nice materials, but it's just forms of steel.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like this was made from a meteor. It's not that kind of stuff.
Well, I was thinking something like, it's like what you're taking it from. I didn't know if there's like a lot of like leftover stuff. It's like, well, this is done now, and I don't know if there's stuff like that.
No, it's just a guy beating a metal on a forge, or taking a piece of metal out of a forge and beating it on an anvil into shape. So there's some loss there, but it's just really just the tool, and it's it's knowing your metallurgy, and
Yeah.
because once they started, like, 'cause I remember they used to have a problem where the knives would shatter a lot when they do them in the shop, but they only had like 3 hours or something to make them. But on the judges competition, they're having 8 hours, but they can make anything from swords to battle axes. But so not only do they have the forges and the quenching oil, but then they have the tempering oven, which like heats the knife up to like 200 or 300 degrees or whatever. But when you temper it, it relieves a lot of the stress in them, so very few of these shatter anymore.
Huh.
Because they're not just going from forge to quench to hard to sharpen to turn in. Now they're taking time to what they call anneal them. And yeah, because you could always tell the guys on the TV show that were contestants that really knew their shit. Like they had annealing ovens and all that
Yeah.
stuff. They had like these full workshops.
Yeah, because annealing, it'll make it harder, but then there's like a brittle point that will shatter, and that's why you put it in one of those like really, really fucking hot ovens. That's when you're actually hardening it and not losing so much not making it as brittle. Because we have stuff like that for machining.
Yeah.
Because we always talked about, like, because there's always this thing like this thing we're supposed to know how to harden metal, but like everywhere I was in the military, like we never had a metal hardener thing until we finally went to it was like I can't remember what they call it. It was like class 5 echelon, where they could take something that's completely fucked up and rebuild it completely. So they had a full machine suite, so you can just make anything you wanted there, and they actually had a hardening thing. Whereas like the most we could do was just like heat it up and dip it in some motor oil, which is that's just annealing, just a cheaper version.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so yeah, these guys do all this stuff. It's maintained my interest, but I've never actually done it. Because they always have places around here you can sign up and like make your own knife, and it's like that looks cool, but then like the class is like $800. It's like, wow, I don't know. It's over several days, but it's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to. I just buy a cool one for that kind of money. It's actually the knives you get, like some of those tactical knives that I have, those flip out ones and stuff. The metal that's made out of is just like, that's rock solid. You're not going to make anything yourself. And those aren't forged knives. Those are just made by machines that just gradually remove material. So
Yeah.
that metal's hardened, and then you make the knife. So there's no like fuckery with, I have to make this soft so I can cut into it. It's like, no, this stuff's all made with lasers and grinding wheels. And it's the, if I could, some of the knives I have, I could literally put them between like masonite and just shove on them with my whole body weight, and they wouldn't break. Like the brick would crack out of it. You're not going to get much better than that. No need to make them. I've got one that's got like a Tonto point on it, and like I would be fully confident stabbing that into a block of lead and just twisting it, and it wouldn't break the tip off. I know how much I paid for it too, so it's like, yeah, I know that's a very well made knife. But it's not hand forged. It's machine ground, but the metal's like 10 times stronger.
Or is that one Japanese channel where a guy will just take a rusty knife from a garage sale and then make it look beautiful?
Yeah.
Just sanding it and just overly caring for something that's just a piece of shit, and then It just slices through silk like nothing.
Yeah, it's called Japanese foil balling. You ever seen that?
No.
Japanese foil balls?
I'm
Yeah,
not-
you take like 100 rolls of aluminum foil from a store, and you just like crush it up into a ball, and then just keep putting pressure and pressure and pressure on it. You can make it look smooth and spherical, like it was a cast ball.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's a joke. It's called, it's like taking regular stuff and making it look amazing. It's just a lot of polishes and fine abrasives. It's generically called Japanese foil ball. It's because you could take kitchen knives and make them look like just mirror finishes.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
shit. Yeah, that's Japanese like to do stuff like that because it's art. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a lot of work. But
Yeah, because I remember we had to like we had to resharpen drill bits at the schoolhouse, and I just always fuck that up because you just have to like, and it's on a bench, and you put the drill bit on the thing, and it's already putting you at the correct angle, and all you have to
Yeah.
do is kind of like just put this little spin on it, and I just never got it right.
yeah, just that wrist technique never fell through for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned what was it? What was trying to teach me how to stick weld once. It's like you just got to keep it moving, keep the puddle going, and I just usually blow right through it, or I'd just be a big slag pile. It's like, what am I doing? He goes, I don't know. Like, is the voltage wrong? It's like, no, I just did it just right before you, and everything's the same. It's like, why is this blowing through this shit? So I just never. That was a brief dalliance I had with him. And I realized I don't like getting burned all the time.
Yeah.
Eating in noxious chemicals. This isn't fun.
Yeah, at least I didn't have to do overhead welding.
Hello, shirt.
Yeah, our guys talking about doing overhead welding, which is like a week-long course in their thing, and even though you have just like all this leather pads on you, just that thing just hot slag just like finds its way to your neckline and down your shirt. Just-
Yeah. No matter what you have on, it will find the opening. I was curious about underwater welding. That's always nuts when you see those guys doing that on oil rigs and stuff.
yeah.
Just how does that even work? Guess it does. But
Yeah, those are super dangerous jobs, and there's like super good money in it, and that's why.
yeah.
I knew a guy who used to do like high power line stuff, like from helicopters. He says like, man, that was good money, but I'll never do that shit again. Because like people, it's high casualty and
We got to ground you, like you become part of the circuit with the helicopter.
yeah.
If you do it wrong or it pulls away, you just get vaporized. Yeah, no thanks. You could make $200,000 a year doing what? Yeah, I don't think so. Get my fat ass on the side of a helicopter holding out a rod.
Those crazy videos where they have like a helicopter with just like a giant set of like saws that just descends from the chopper, and they cut up trees near the power line.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems like too many bad things. I'm flying sawcopter, which I hope the saws don't hit something in those trees and suck the helicopter out of the sky, or I don't get vaporized by a high power. They had those guys on that Axeman show. They had a guy there doing helicopter logging, where the helicopter comes down and like they wrap the log chains, and he has to pull up at a certain angle so the chains lock up and he can pull the logs away. And I was thinking to myself, now I roughly know like how much helicopters cost per hour to run. Like, how is this profitable? What it was is it was like they're looking for certain kinds of like the lay down lumber. And when you cut those up, you can make them into tables for rich people. You know, weird like oak tables that have a high polish on them, and they cost like $80,000.
Yeah.
What these guys were doing. And then one of the episodes, they introduced it with like a kind of a mournful tune. It's like, oh yeah, unfortunately that guy died. It's like, yeah, no shit. Logging with a helicopter. It's like, that sounds like the craziest fucking idea. And when you watch this guy doing it, It was like, oh, that's just dangerous. This guy's a really good helicopter pilot, apparently. Because, I mean, those logs are swinging.
Yeah.
And you got this helicopter, and he's always like having to change the pitch and stuff. It's like, yeah, this looks like a bad idea. But I guess, those Silicon Valley people love those big oak tables or whatever.
Yeah, there's like a different one that's like that too, but it's like underwater logging where it's like trees that fell in like a beach somewhere, and like if you dig those up, they're worth. It's like a whole tree's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah,
because it's great wood or something.
Yeah, well, it's soaked in that water, and if the water has a lot of peat or brine in it, when you cut the wood up, it looks like an awesome table.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like $500 a board foot or something crazy like that.
And that reminds me, like, there's like weird signs. I think I've seen them in Seattle. I wasn't there, but I've seen them, like a picture of Seattle, where it's like it's a beach and it says like watch out for logs, and it's just like a beach just being just bombarded. There's like logs like in the ocean bombarding this beach, and if you go out there, you're gonna fucking die. It's like not a
Well, yeah,
normal
that-
beach.
That's because when they used to bring the logs down the river on the barges from when they were logging in Washington State and Seattle, a lot of those fell off the barges. They just left them because you can't go get them. They just left them sit there. You ever heard of the term deadhead?
No.
That's a term I hear a lot from because I always thought that meant you were driving a semi without a trailer on it, which meant you weren't making money. That was called deadhead return runs or something. But these guys that have boats up here, they're especially people that are in the intercoastal and in the waterways in Michigan. It's like, yeah, you got to watch out for deadheads. Like, what's a deadhead? I was like, well, if you're going up a river on a boat at high speed, and if the water's low, there could be a log under there just sticking up. And if you hit that, you're going to go flying off the boat and get killed, and your boat's going to get destroyed. And they said, I was like, oh, that's a deadhead, huh? So I'd never heard the term used that way. But yeah, it's like, how about if I will never be in the boat in a river where I might run into a log where I'll get a quick physics lesson before I die. Because they used to do that kind of logging here too, and the rivers and lakes are full of them. Now here you can't move them. They'll like if you try to get those out of there and sell them, you go to prison because they're like trying to preserve the natural environment.
The natural environment of a sawmill chucking trees into a river.
Probably part of a larger plan, like if we let the logs age 200, we can live forever. Who knows what they're thinking? Who knows what they're thinking here? But yeah,
I've seen some weird movies recently.
yeah, me too. What have you seen?
Well, I guess this one's not really. I was subscribed back up to New Japan Pro Wrestling because they started wrestling again, and they're gonna have fans at one of their new shows. Because like in Japan, there's only like 1,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. So, but they took it seriously. So but it's going to be like a third capacity.
Okay.
So it's not not everyone's there. But they produced a movie, or at least they have it on their streaming service called "My Dad is a Heel Wrestler."
Okay.
Which is it stars Hiroshi Tanahashi, which you won't know who he is. You won't know who anybody of these people are. And he's like the movie starts off and it's a kid, and like it's a day at school where all the kids have to say what their dad does, and his dad is like trying to get there in a business suit, and like but he like misses the thing, and then like after class the kids are like, "What does your dad do?" And then like the kid gets scared because like all of the kids that can come up is like, "Oh, your dad must be a criminal." And then like the kid follows his dad to like the wrestling gym one day, and like he just from his point of view, he just sees like these giant mean looking dudes like come out of the place and like yell at the guy, and like it's like, "Oh no, my dad's a criminal." And then somehow the kid ends up at a wrestling show, and like one of his class friends are there, and they're like rooting for people, and then eventually he sees his dad. His dad plays a heel. He's like like Le Cockroach or something like that. Because like he used to be a star wrestler, but he fucked up his knee, and so now he plays a heel. And so that's what he becomes even more ashamed of his father. It's like, oh, my dad's a wrestler, but he's a heel wrestler. He does shameful things. Because he's like cheating. He has a partner called the Blue Bottle Fly who like distracts the ref while he pulls out like a cockroach spray and sprays it in his opponent's face. It's a fun little movie. It's pretty much just a kids movie, but if you know stuff about wrestling, it's enjoyable. Bunch of appearance from people from New Japan, although they call it like I can't remember. They just do like that slight thing where they make it's New Japan, but they just make it slightly different, so it's not New Japan. I'm not exactly sure what they're worried about, but yeah,
Kind of right to you.
yeah. But clearly they had like full permission from New Japan Wrestling to use all their wrestlers and everything else, but just like just make the logo slightly different. But yeah, it's a cute little movie. Remind me of like the weird thing about Hiroshi Tanahashi. He's largely regarded. He's older now, so now he's not really the top star anymore. But like in the early 2000s, he like basically like rescued New Japan Pro Wrestling from bankruptcy, like himself.
Okay.
And his rise to stardom is kind of weird because he was just like for a while he was just a guy. Like he was a good worker, but like there's nothing special about him necessarily compared to everybody else. And then he broke up with his girlfriend, who was a news reporter, who got really mad and decided to stab him.
Okay.
And while he was recuperating, that became a huge story in Japan, and then he became a star off of that. And then I watched. It showed up on Netflix just randomly. I'm not even sure if it was suggested to me. It was just kind of like in the feed somewhere.
Yeah.
Called Beverly Luff Linn.
Okay.
It's a super weird movie. I enjoyed it. I fell asleep through the middle part of it, but that's just because I was just threw it on like, what the fuck's this? While I was like going to bed. So, but I saw like the first like 30 minutes clearly, and then like woke up for the end. But I enjoyed what I saw. But it's kind of a combination of Napoleon Dynamite and David Lynch.
Okay.
It's a comedy, but it's a bizarre dark comedy. But it's got that kind of Lynchian thing where like everybody's almost in their different movie and has like different ways of talking, and it's like, but everything is so fucking bizarre, and there's so many like and weird choices going on. I don't really know anything about the director. He's just from England. Like I never heard of this movie before. It came out like 2 years ago. Craig Robinson plays the titular Beverly Luff Linn, and I don't think he ever speaks in the movie. He just grunts. It stars Aubrey Plaza and Jermaine Clement, the one of the guys from Flight of the Conchords.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just so bizarre, and there's a lot of just weird characters, and that's why it reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite. And so I recommend checking it out, being that it just came out of nowhere. It's on Netflix currently.
Oh, okay. That sounds. That's not the. I haven't seen that one, but I will.
What weird movie have you seen? Just offhand.
Oh, there's been a lot of. There's a lot of weird stuff on Netflix. I thought we were leading into the Eurovision Song Contest.
And we can, or I recommend Palm Springs. It's on Hulu. It's essentially just Groundhog Day, but I think I like it more than Groundhog Day.
I think I've seen previews for that.
Yeah, it has fucking the guy from the Lonely Island guy, and Andy Samberg,
Oh, okay.
and the titular mother from How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, okay.
Which, if you don't know anything about that show, she wasn't in the show until like the last like 2 episodes.
don't know much about them.
It was just a comedy. I mean, the whole idea, why it's called How I Met Your Mother is the idea is that he's telling his kids, for 8 years how he met his mother, and then the last episode of the show they actually show, who their mother is. But yeah, it's it's essentially just a time loop movie. There's a wedding that just keeps going over and over again. There's a sort of the twist to this one is that there's an earthquake that opens up some cave, and in the cave is just some weird glowing ball thing that creates the time loop.
Okay.
And if you are like put into the weird glowing ball thing, then you become aware of the time loop. So that's sort of like what they had. There's people within this time loop that are aware of it. And there's only 3 people that are aware of it. So there's one guy. There's the main guy, Andy Samberg, and then there's what's that guy's name? J.K. Simmons.
Okay.
And the first time you see him, he's just dressed in fatigues and has like face paint on, and he's like shooting Andy Samberg with a bow and arrow.
Okay.
Because he's really pissed at him because he got him caught in this time loop. Because it's like the time loop, it always resets if you go to sleep, if you die. Yeah, basically, if your consciousness ends and the loop restarts.
Okay.
And then so he was working his magic and trying to at least this loop, trying to get with this girl, and then J.K. Simmons is chasing him down, and then J.K. Simmons goes into the cave, and then she ends up falling afterwards, and then she wakes up, and then she's like, "What the fuck's going on?" as the day starts repeating, and then, it's just fun. It'll immediately draw comparisons to Groundhog's Day because that's how it works. But I think what works here, it's essentially it's a dark romantic comedy because these 2 people are like just essentially in hell together and like try to make the best of it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's on Hulu. I suggest watching it. So
Okay.
I thought it was a TV show, and then I was like 45 minutes in. I was like, are these hour-long episodes? Like, oh, it's just a movie. I was like, I was kind of bummed because I thought like the idea of like you take the time loop thing, that would be interesting to like sort of separate each episode into like, this is the suicide episode. Like each episode has its own theme of like how you're going to handle a time loop. Like I thought that would be a neat idea, but no, it's just a movie. So.
Oh, okay.
I think that's all. Yeah, that's all the new ones I've seen so far. Or just the weird offhand movies that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
And I guess Warrior Nun, I just saw that that came out of the blue on Netflix.
Oh, how was that? Not that good.
It's fine, but like when you watch the trailer, they basically make it look like it's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it's just way more serious than that.
Oh, okay.
There's some interesting things with it. There's like this whole mechanic where somebody was bestowed a halo from an angel, and then like if you embed this halo into a human being, they basically become super powerful.
Yeah.
And then the person who had the halo at the time, they get like fucked up, and they have to take the halo out of her as she dies. And then for some reason they get attacked by demons, and then this guy hides the halo in a dead body, and then the dead body comes back to life, and that's the main character.
Oh, okay.
Like she died, and then you find out she was a paraplegic. And so, like, she hasn't, like, used her limbs in, like, years. Like, she got in a car accident when she was, like, 6 or something like that. So there's, like, some interesting stuff with that where it's, like oh, she's basically gets a second chance at life. And appreciates the thing. And it's all, and you would think, like, the way in the trailer, you'd think, like, oh, like, well, she becomes the new Warrior Nun, and they just immediately get into like hijinks of stopping evil. Like, no, it's like I think we're in the third episode and they finally are like starting to explain things. They find her, but yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's just it's not as fun as I was hoping it would be,
Right.
but it's totally fine. And the main actress like looks so much like Ellen is it Ellen Page. That's right. Yeah, Ellen Page.
Well, so speaking of Netflix, we watched a movie this week.
Yep. Eurovision, the saga of, or no, the something
Story
of Fire saga.
Yeah. Well, it's actually entitled Eurovision Song Contest. Story of Fire Saga. Starring Will Ferrell and
Rachel McAdams
Adams, Pierce Bronson.
and Olaf Thor Olafsson.
Yep. One of those names. Well, I mean, yeah, this starts in Iceland. Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams are these people in Iceland that are like kind of a weird ABBA. Like that's what they want to be.
Yeah.
And they're singing this. I mean, the movie opens with this weird song that they're singing. It's like Volcano Protector Man. it's you like Will Ferrell comedy, which I do sometimes. It's kind of goofy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this is kind of return to form. I mean, I'd compare this to Blades of Fury, that skating movie he did.
Yeah.
But considering the last major movie he did was that Watson and Holmes car wreck, like this is a nice recovery.
Oh yeah. And it's based on something real called the Eurovision Song Contest, which is something I had to look up. It's like, what is this? It's like, oh, it's like a complex American Idol, and it's been going on forever.
Yeah, because like I said last week, probably the most famous people to come out of this is ABBA.
Yeah.
Which they sang Waterloo
Yep.
at Eurovision.
Eurovision like 1970s.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if they won. I assume they did, but I actually don't know.
I mean, I heard Will Ferrell got this idea because his wife is from Sweden.
Yeah.
She kept telling him about this, and so he actually went to the last one.
Yeah.
And started taking notes. It's like, oh, this is this is weird enough. I could riff off this.
Yeah, so it's like pretty much all Europe and then some other people. Just like it's just I don't know. I think the hardest point is just like no America. America is not involved with this whatsoever. Oh, at least as far as I know, I don't think there's an American contingent to Eurovision.
No, I don't think we. Well, it's kind of like this is like a lot of those things the rest of the world's into. It's like soccer. It's like, yeah, we don't need it. We have baseball, football, basketball, hockey. So it's like, yeah, we don't need to. We have states that are bigger than a lot of these countries, so we can have our thing going. But this was, I mean, that didn't really bother me because it was just so over the top. Yeah, it's that over the top weird humor that Will Ferrell does, and I don't know who wrote this. Probably, I think Will Ferrell wrote a lot of this too.
Yeah, Will Ferrell and I think something like Dan Steele or something like that. He's an SNL writer.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, but this is just.
But it's also the guy who directed this did Wedding Crashers, so.
Oh, okay.
But
just like in Iceland when they're having the debate about who do we pick from the Eurovision contest and all this, it's like, well, we don't really want to win because it'll bankrupt us trying to host it. Like they have all these strange concerns.
Yeah, so the whoever wins Eurovision, whoever wins whatever country they're from, they host the next Eurovision.
Yeah.
Because like that one person who like has the beard and wears like women's clothing.
Yeah.
That's the person from Israel, and so they won and they had Eurovision in Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Which they show up in that one, like when they're at the party and there's like a big like handing off song sequence. Like that sequence is full of a bunch of people from Eurovision.
Actually in it, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I only know like Eurovision by like podcasts I listen to where people get excited about like, hey, Eurovision's coming out. I'm like, what the fuck's Eurovision? And it's this whole thing.
Yeah, it's something I learned about on YouTube. But mainly, this movie was just that typical corny Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I like
deadpan serious. This.
I like the weird stuff with the elves, where there's just these tiny cottage houses and people leave gifts there, and then like, when's this gonna pay off? And like one of the elves, who you never see, kills the bad Icelandic guy with a knife.
Yeah. Victor or whatever. Yeah.
And then like Will Ferrell's like, it's like I'll just leave this knife here for you to do other murders.
I mean, it's also like an interesting love story.
Yeah.
Because like
Sigrid and was it Lars? Yeah.
Yeah, like Sigrid's like really talented, actually.
Yeah.
But she just likes Lars a lot. Who's like his idea of things is like very 80s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Music and songs, so she just kind of goes along with it.
Well, also like the weird thing with her, she kind of has like she's weirdly attached to him because it's like his enthusiasm. Because apparently, like when she was a kid, she didn't talk, and she only talked when like he brought it out of her by singing or something,
right?
Singing and dancing, and that's when she was able to talk, which she like is incredibly grateful for that. And then everyone else just thinks that's stupid.
Right. Idiot. But they all want his band to sing this one song over and over again. Like, because no one in the city can have, or the village they're in has feelings unless they hear him sing this song.
It's like, play Ding Dong Ding. It's like,
yeah, something weird like that.
There's something in the trivia that said there's a lot of songs like that in Eurovision where they just like, to get over language barriers, they'll have just like weird songs like that where it's meaningless, but it sounds, catchy.
Rhythm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ya Ya Ding Dong. It's the song that they're singing. That the people in the Icelandic village can only have feelings. They sing.
And there's a weird contentious relationship between Will Ferrell and Pierce Brosnan where he just sees his son as a failure. And then it's weirdly turned around by when he fails publicly with the weird hamster wheel thing and like they crash it, and he finishes the song, and then that's what his dad's impressed with his son finally for. Is like, you got up and you finished it. You didn't quit.
Yeah, some of the stuff I like when I talk about the weird humor is like when when Lars and his dad Eric, which is Will Ferrell and Pierce Brosnan, are at the mother. It's his wife and his mother's grave, and his dad's like he's at his mom's grave, and he's like, you wasted your whole life, you haven't done anything, and he's like, well, I still have this dream or whatever, and Pierce Brosnan's like, you're a middle-aged man, like it's over. What are you doing? So they're actually not, because I think Will Ferrell's like in his 50s. It's like,
yeah,
and they didn't even try to.
Yeah, they just say middle. They don't like give a concrete age in here because there's.
But it is actually what's going on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, you're a middle-aged man. What the fuck are you doing?
And there's a weird thing where people suggest that Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams like might be brother and sister. They just don't know. Like, probably not, but we don't know. Because Pierce Brosnan like fucks every woman in the village or whatever.
Yeah, because I remember she's at the little elf village, and she's like, I'd like to have a baby with him. And she says all this weird stuff. And yeah, there's all kinds of humor like that running through it. And then you just have these outrageous like performance sets where each one's more cringeworthy and the last.
But yeah, it's a totally fine comedy, Will Ferrell comedy from Netflix. So.
Yeah, there's nothing like this isn't Borat or anything. It's funny.
Yeah.
In a weird, it's funny because it's like totally like it's like completely it's like an American Canadian English cast, but it's something. It's like so far. It's like people don't even know what the hell this is. But it's funny, even if you don't know.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to come out with like alongside actual Eurovision, but of course Eurovision got canceled this year, so it just got they moved it to June,
Yeah.
which I wonder if that helps.
It depends on where you're at. I don't know.
Well, it's just like, you know, if everybody's just like streaming everything, it's like I'll watch that.
Yeah, that might. Yeah, you couldn't get me into crowds of people right now. Do you know what they're doing in Australia?
No.
Like they had such a huge outbreak somewhere outside of Sydney. They got the military like blocking off the city, part of the city,
Huh.
because it's like these high-rise apartments.
Yeah.
It spread so rampantly through there, like you can't leave. Like there's dudes out there with guns saying you can't leave. Oh fuck! Because I guess being really bad is like in America, it's big, but like proportionally, it's big. You know, in a lot of different places. It's not just we just have these crazy numbers because we got 350 million people here, but like in I guess Australia's I think it's almost as bad as we are percentage-wise now. Which I thought the heat was going to destroy.
God was gonna send rays to UV rays to
Into
weaken.
our lungs.
Yep.
Didn't happen.
We'll just have to pour bleach into our assholes.
Yeah. That'll work. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I had a thing where like we should do a because I don't think we're gonna stop the Netflix feature because for financial reasons.
Yeah.
Well, because we used to do stuff and it would like we'd have to buy a movie every week, which would be like $40 a month.
Yeah.
So this we just already have the spend included, and then we can do other things like get a book a month, which is an added expense but cheaper than what it would be.
Yeah. Plus, you get a lot more out of a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, a book's not just 2 hours.
But yeah, I thought we should do a check-in on like what we think of Netflix movies so far.
Yeah, I don't. Some of them are entertaining. But yeah, there's some of them that are like a real mixed bag. Like you can tell, like, oh, this is why this didn't make it prime time. It used to be, it's like, well, this is why it didn't make it to the theaters. But now, like, nothing's making it to the theaters. So,
yeah, there was always like the contingent of like, is this a Netflix rescue? Because that's usually like when you get the really mixed stuff where it's like this seems like it has high production values, but the movie's very middling.
yeah.
Or you get like the what was that one with the ghosts, like the military ghost ones?
Oh, yeah, because it's that one we watched where it was ridiculous and really entertaining. What was that one called? Damn it!
It's not like
still on
Spectre or something, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But I just remember like I thought like at first I was like, oh, this is like a plucky low budget movie where they're doing the best with it. It's like, oh, this is like $100 million movie.
It's a really expensive movie.
Oh, okay.
It was entertaining, but not like
And then like, yeah, I'm wondering like because with the middling quality, I'm wondering like. You think like, okay, like Netflix is trying things and they just aren't working, or is it like, does Netflix have a laissez-faire attitude? Like, it's like, we trust you, and then like what results of it is like kind of like is of less quality. Because we have like, what's been your favorite movie so far?
Oh, I can't really say. I'm trying to think of what we watched. There's some things that I really liked.
Well, I remember you guys seemed really impressed with Marriage. Was it Marriage Story?
Oh yeah, the one with guy Kylo Ren.
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver. Yeah, that one was actually like that sucked you in, and usually I don't like that was essentially like a Kramer versus Kramer retelling,
Yeah.
but it was actually very engaging in a way I didn't think I would be. And that was a surprise for me because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Not because I didn't like the actors and people that made it or anything. It's just some of that stuff is like this is just gonna be depressing, and it was, but it was also very very well done. So yeah, I do remember I liked that one a lot.
Probably my favorite so far was the Extraction movie. Not just like giant action movie with Thor.
Yeah, I mean that was a good movie.
Um,
That was weird because it was like an Indian production
yeah.
set in countries around India with actresses and actors, some of them you've never seen that were actually really good.
And then fuck, what was it? Six Underground was terrible.
Yeah, that was.
It was just a waste all around.
I hadn't felt that empty inside since the Terminator movie, or not Terminator, Transformers movie.
Yeah. Because it's like okay, we know that fuck, I just forgot his name. Who's the director? God damn it. Well, it's like we know he can do action. We know he sucks at storytelling, but at least we know he can do action. You have Ryan Reynolds, who like, well, he's fun in movies, and he does not help this movie.
You can't save this.
Yeah, you can't save him.
Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay, and like there's good action in the movie. It's just like you don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But actually, like my least favorite one so far was what was that? Fucking the one with Ben Affleck and
Last thing you wanted,
yeah, the last thing he wanted. That was
top of my list.
that.
too.
That was awful.
I watch because it had all the potential.
Yeah.
Starting out is like this has got to be good. No way this can be bad. This lady's doing a great job. They got a compelling story. It's like, oh, they're redoing the Oliver Stone movie. What was it? The one with James Woods.
Yeah.
Salvador.
Yeah, Salvador. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're doing some kind of retelling of Salvador. Well, kind of, but if it was completely disjointed, boring, and unconnected.
Yeah, that one was just like why it's so bad is because it failed at so much of its potential.
It's like you got Willem Dafoe, Anne Hathaway, Ben Affleck, Rosie Perez, like all those people. It's like this has got to be good. And it's during the '80s with all that war down there that we were funding with cocaine and hate for communism and our love of greed. And it's like this has got to be good. Nope. Really jumped off a cliff. I can't really recall when. It's just once the credits start rolling, I was like, huh? I thought the movie would pull its shit together, but it didn't.
Well, yeah, there's like movies like I was thinking of like, comparing that movie with like You Were Never Really There, where that's a movie like I really like that movie, but like they don't give you anything in that movie. You have to bring your own story to that movie.
Yeah, it just looks cool.
Yeah, and like
brooding acting.
And then it's like the same thing here. It's like, well, you got to bring your own story here, but like no, it's just this sucks. There's nothing here for me to bring to it.
Yeah. I cannot bring in my
because I felt stupid after watching it. I was like, I must just missed everything. And then like I asked you guys, and like, no, they just didn't connect anything whatsoever.
Yeah, there was nothing to miss here.
And then like some of the foreign ones are really good. Like I can't remember that one. It was like We Own the Night or something like that. That one really violent action movie.
Yeah.
It was like from like either. Yeah, it was like Singapore or Thailand. One of those.
Yeah.
That one was pretty good. Just because it was so fucking ridiculous action.
Yeah.
And it was different, different cultures and stuff like that. And the one weird white guy, or was it a white guy, or is he like half Asian? I can't remember. And
Yep.
he just dies a horrible, violent death of getting stabbed like 100 times.
Yeah.
Um, and then we've watched some of those Stephen King ones, which are kind of, I don't know, like on par with Stephen King movies that get produced for Stephen King stuff, where it's like it's okay, but it didn't really. It's just okay, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Although I thought Gerald's Game was pretty neat. Like that kept my interest all along. And then was it 19? What was that one? 1922?
Yeah, something like that. The one with the guy from The Expanse.
Yeah. Which was interesting, but kind of a slog. But
Yeah. But actually, that was one where the story was better
yeah,
than the visualization of it.
was that one just based on a short story?
I think so, or like a novella.
Okay.
It wasn't like a full-length novel.
But yeah, we're gonna keep watching Netflix movies, but
Yeah.
so far it's just okay. They have some good movies, a lot of middling stuff, and then occasionally terrible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I watch on Netflix on my own. Sometimes I fall into gyms, but yeah, I'd have to overall. I'd say my experience with Netflix, I'd give it if I was going to give it an aggregate, I'd give it about 60%.
A D, huh? D minus.
Yeah, it's just kind of a dustbin. I mean, Amazon Prime's even worse. So it's like, because Amazon will promote these movies that look like they were shot on a fucking VHS camera from the 80s.
Yeah, but I mean that's just like
Filmmaking.
that's more of the openness of the platform. That's not necessarily the movies they make themselves.
Yeah, no, the Amazon original stuff is generally good,
Yeah.
but they also throw a
The
lot
the only problem with like we would do like we might do something like that where it'd be like we're gonna start watching the Amazon original movies, but a lot of those aren't necessarily like free immediately.
yeah.
So that's why we haven't done those. Because they generally do better movies than TV shows, and Netflix is the opposite. Although probably things are mildly switching currently.
Nobody knows any. Well, I remember people thought Netflix was really they're going into the ditch. 2020 is the years we lose them, and then everyone's quarantined. And Netflix is going to have more money than Apple. So that's not based on anything. I'm just riffing, but
Yeah.
So nobody knows. But yeah, overall, I'd have to say like I don't dread going to Netflix, but I know sometimes it's like okay, there's going to be a lot of quarter completed viewings in my portfolio because I'm just not watching it.
And usually, like, I avoid the ones that are like, this is going to be obviously terrible, because there's a lot of those, and I kind of choose. Like, I think the only one I like threw for the loop was when I threw Tall Girl in there. I was like, well, obviously this isn't a movie meant for us, and like, we enjoyed it enough for what it was, but it's like it isn't for us.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I felt weird watching it sometimes. It's like, what am I- oh, it's a teen rom-com. I see you've decided to become a pervert. Oh no, this is research for a show.
Yeah, because there's in that Netflix original production, there's like a real deep hole, and then you go into all different kinds of countries. We haven't even explored that. Like, this is really just surface level stuff that we've been watching.
Yeah, we're not doing a lot of deep foreign stuff here, and they do have that.
Yeah.
I try to avoid stuff with subtitles because, like I said, usually I'm working on something.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to just stare at a screen.
Yeah. That's probably like the quality of these movies. Like, it's enough to barely pay attention to.
What did you think of Asteroid Miners? I finished the Chernobyl. So it really engaged you. Yes.
But I hear good things about the not the Order. What is it? The Old Guard. So
Okay.
I have a different movie for next week, but maybe we'll switch it up. We'll see.
Okay.
Because that just came out this week.
Yeah, you want that French movie next week, right? The Lost Bullet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I like French movies sometimes. They're weird.
I don't know. Some of the foreign ones you've watched, you said that they have dubs, and you said they've been okay.
Yeah. Some of them are okay. I'm trying to think of which ones I found. Well, I mean, the biggest. Well, Dark, the TV series is. That was a foreign one that surprisingly drew me in. Like, oh, this is kind of cool. What else have I watched? Sometimes there's a lot of guilty pleasures on that. Like I rewatched Verhoeven's Total Recall this week because it's like, oh, here's a trip down memory lane.
There's some foreign ones I've been meaning to watch, but they didn't really fit into the show. Because there's one, it's called Money Heist, but it's like a mini series, so I didn't like pick that for the, because it's not a movie, so I didn't pick it for the feature.
Okay.
But I hear good things about that. There's that one, it's like 365 or something like that. It's essentially like Sweden's, oh fuck, what's that book with the with like the BDSM secretary thing. Shades of Grey, 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay.
'Cause
I was
that,
gonna say girl with the dragon tattoo.
yeah,
Also.
yeah, that works too. Because every once in a while, if you go to the top 10 interesting, the top 10 list they have now is kind of interesting because you just see stuff pop up and you're like, what the fuck is this? And you like click on it and you see like the trailer roll up and it's like, oh nope, not watching this. I remember that there's one. It always looks stupid, but it was like it seemed to be hot for a while. It was called like Island.
Oh yeah, it was just. I think people watched it for the train wreck.
Oh, okay. Was it that? Okay, it looked bad and it was bad. Okay.
Yeah, I remember. I didn't watch it, but I remember reading like,
Oh, okay.
you'll never get your soul back if you watch this. It's like, okay, all right.
Well, it looked like they were doing Lost, but like
Yeah.
not even a clever Lost. It just seems stupid. It's like we're making Survivor, but it's like people. I'm not even sure if it's about reality because it seems like they're in a video game, but if they die, they'll die in real life, and it's about people fucking each other over. And it's not called Island, like not the word. It's like iPhone, but it's Island.
Yeah.
It's like that's stupid. What are you gonna?
What else have I watched? Oh, Babylon Berlin.
What was that?
That's an interesting historical. It's a German TV show about in the interwar years between World War I and World War II,
Oh,
and just how decadent Weimar Germany was. And it's like they don't really talk about the Nazis in it, other than there's like radical political people, but you can easily see like, oh, this is why Hitler came to power in Germany because it was run by just lunatics and perverts. What else did I? There's a few of those like. I got into a kick during the quarantine, during the first quarantine. I'm going to start saying the first quarantine. Another one's coming. I got onto a kick of watching like a lot of Polish TV police procedurals.
yeah.
That were like super grim. Like everyone sucked in the TV show. Like you weren't really rooting for anyone, but
There is, oh fuck, it's very a dubious production about Final Fantasy 12.
okay.
Or no, maybe it's which one is it? There's a Final Fantasy that's an MMO,
Okay.
and it's a TV show about like how this father and son connect through the Final Fantasy video game. And it's like, is this a commercial or what the fuck is this? I remember watching like half of the first episode and just being too embarrassed to watch even any more of it.
So what else did I watch that's new on? Oh, Unsolved Mysteries.
Did they do a new production of it, or is it just the old
new
ones?
No, it's new production.
Oh, okay.
And some of them are actually pretty compelling. It's like, what the hell happened? This is unsolved.
Yeah, because I saw that it was hitting the top 10, but I thought it was like the old one. It was like they just got it on.
It's new ones. And then there's one
Does it have the same music?
it's like modernized.
Okay.
It's, you mean that like da-da-na-da-na-da-na?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like that, but if like what's his name, like Trent Reznor and the other guy, it's kind of like dark downbeat. Dun, 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 dun. It's got like weird. There's a lot of weird images. I usually skip the intro. I watched it once. Like, yeah, okay, I see what they're trying.
But then there's there's a lot of like Netflix anime that's like pretty good.
Okay.
I haven't watched all of it, but I've like attempted to watch a bunch of it. And that's not necessarily like it's quality. It's just like sometimes like it just didn't catch me, but like it seems like okay. Like the recent one I watched the first episode of is like it's like Japan sinking 2020.
Okay.
And it's about like just a natural disaster hits Japan and it's an animated series.
Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. Like a Japanese animated series.
Although
I watched a few episodes of that Parasite.
yeah.
That's just fucking weird.
Yeah, I saw all of that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. And then Megaloboxing or Megalobox.
Okay.
I watched 3 episodes of that. It's pretty good. I might finish it up at some point. It's essentially like, hey, technology, Japan, and Rocky. Just throw it all in a movie together.
Throw it in a blender and see what comes out.
Because it's people just boxing, but they have like these exoskeleton arms that make them punch like even harder. So like the sport's just even more dangerous.
Yeah. Like guaranteed concussion.
And there's a guy where like his whole thing is like he throws fights, but he's like a really good fighter if he didn't have to throw fights.
Oh.
So it's about him like essentially the whole story. And this guy's an asshole, but the whole story is about him like being able to believe in himself and like fighting like the main guy who like has like the really expensive arms that can beat the shit out of him. But I liked it so far. I'll probably finish it at some point. And what's really cool about it is that it's a modern production, but they really kind of like they really invoke that like late 80s, early 90s anime look.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's very specific, but like you know what I'm talking about when you see it. But like, so I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, and I need to watch that Ghost in the Shell 1, 2.
Yeah.
I haven't got back. I've still only seen that while like going to bed, so I don't know anything about that show. But I always love Ghost in the Shell, so get through it at some point.
Well. So Netflix, check it out. Endless entertainment for your quarantine needs.
And if you don't have a password, your friend probably does.
Yeah.
Share your Netflix.
Subscribe or share. No, we're just kidding. Don't do that. That's absolutely wrong. People work hard. They need shark skin seats for their Mercedes. Give them your money. Well, that's all I got for this week.
Yeah.
All right. This week for the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Colin. Goodbye, America.